Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Authors to Know and Their Books to Read. I'm your host, Martinique Brown. I'm so excited that you have decided to tune into the show today. I'm really excited about our author here on the show, Coach Abby, and she's actually going to be talking to us about her book called From Dating to I Do, a Christian's Woman's Guide to Praying, Planning, and Preparing for Your Future Husband. Coach Abby, can you just go ahead and let the viewers just know a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been a published author?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Martinique, for having me on your show. And I'm really excited to discuss this topic and to discuss my book and, really being able to help, all of the single Christian women out there that is, ready to meet, their husbands. So, again, my name is Abigail Brooks. I go by Coach Abby. I am a Christian dating coach, and I'm also a licensed professional counselor in the Washington, D.C. and Maryland area. I've been a licensed counselor for over 10 years and a coach also is that length of time as well too. As far as being a published author, this is really new to me. So my book actually was published in April. So I'm
Okay.
really excited to be able to, add this to my resume and really be able to help, more, women through, reading and being able to get to know me in that way.
Definitely, definitely. So
Mm.
now shout out to Doc Sierra for tuning into the show. She said it sounds like it's a great topic. It is, Doc. So make sure you go ahead and share this video now so that more people know about Coach Abby and her book as well as her services. If you watch it in the virtual world, go ahead and give us a shout out. We will not bite you. So Coach Abby, can you talk to us about your journey of meeting men that really didn't meet your expectations to meeting your husband?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it had to do with me and my immaturity as far as where I was. Just growing up, I thought that I knew myself. After high school, I began to question who I really was, what I really wanted, and I kind of lost my way a little bit in college, where I began to meet men based on that really wasn't my standards, but I was so desperate to be in a relationship and have that first boyfriend, where I think that I kind of lowered, well, not kind of, but I did lower my standards
Hmm.
in order just to say that I was in that in a relationship, and so because I lowered my standards, then of course the men that were attracted to me and the men that I was speaking to, came to me that didn't meet my expectations. That's because of who, I was at the time and how I was lowering my standards in order to be in that relationship. So once I began to failed relationship after relationship, and once I really began to evaluate myself from the inside out and really learned who I was in Christ, being a Christian and really focusing on my purpose and who He designed me to be, then that's when the doors opened for me to meet my husband online within 4 months of me being online. So I had to do a lot of, inner work as far as finding me first before I was ready to meet my husband now.
That's good. That's good. Coach Abby, we hear a lot about people and women and men sometimes, um, lowering their standards. What did lowering your standards actually look like for you?
Like I said, as a Christian, I was, taught to, keep myself until marriage. I actually, during my 16th birthday, my dad had given me a promise ring, to keep myself, until marriage. I had made that promise, to my father and to God that that was one of the things that I was going to do. And in college, that completely just went out the window, And that was one of the biggest things for me that kind of led me to lower my standards, is having sex with men that were not my husband.
Hmm.
So because of that, I think a lot of other things started to follow that wasn't really in my criteria, but it really started with me having premarital sex.
Hmm. So, what was your wake up call for you that made you feel that you were lowering your standards and you were living up to, your proclamation of being a Christian woman?
Well, just heartbreak after heartbreak. The guy that I lost my virginity to actually cheated on me. And that was really heartbreaking for me because I'm like, okay, he has to marry. I was putting a lot of pressure on him, to
Mm-hmm.
marry me because I knew that that's what I needed, to
Yeah.
do. And so because I had lost my virginity to him and he cheated on me, that was really heartbreaking. So
Yeah.
instead of, really seeking at the time help, to get to a place of healing, I began to do other things like, get into random relationships, or, just, still sleeping around in order to, heal myself from that. So that was my breaking point where I knew that I was just, at a loss because I was not doing things how I knew was right or how I grew up was right, but just trying to, really run away from God
Hmm.
because I was so embarrassed and guilty and like, oh my gosh, I didn't keep my promise.
Yeah.
I was at the state of running from him instead of just going to him.
So now, what did it look like for you to begin to forgive yourself? Because sometimes when we do sin against God, we're like, well, God, I don't even want to pray to you. I feel so bad. Sometimes it gets to that point. So, how did forgiving yourself look like?
I think at one point after the last like guy, the fourth or fifth guy that cheated on me and really didn't give me any type of respect that I deserved, I just had a heart of just, I was tired.
Yeah.
I was tired of running. I knew that I wanted to get married. I knew that God had called me, to be a wife, but I also knew that I wasn't going about it in the right direction. So
Hmm.
it was the point just of me being really tired of putting myself out there, getting hurt time and time after again, and knowing that I wasn't doing it in the right order that I
Hmm.
knew that God had wanted me to be in. So I was just at a place of tiredness and just wanted everything to just kind of just not be where they was at the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that you speak of that tiredness, but you know, sometimes when we sin, we beat ourselves up to the
Mm-hmm.
point where we don't even change. You know, how
Mm-hmm.
did you forgive yourself though? Because we know God forgives us, but we still put that blame on ourselves and we relive it in our mind and we don't move on from it. So how did you forgive yourself from it?
Yeah, and that takes a lot of maturity, to really grow into learning to forgive ourselves and repairing ourselves. And
Mhm.
that's really a good question. So once I, asked God to forgive me, then I had to begin that healing work of reminding myself who I was in Christ,
Mhm.
who Christ had created me, to be, and really accepting his love for me in
Good.
order to be able to, forgive myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I think so that that healing doesn't come overnight.
Yeah.
For some women it take longer, than others, or people in general, but it's so important to understand that God doesn't want us to hold on to what he's already done for us on the cross
That's
if we
good.
want to be able to move on into our next season.
That's good. That's good. So now Doc Sierra said forgiving oneself is so hard. Prayer and therapy did it for her. And then Quintel also asked the question. She said the promise ring definitely want to bring that back. What did the process actually look like for you? Was it a ceremony?
No, it was just on my 16th birthday. My dad took me out for dinner.
Yeah.
And he just, really had the talk with me about, just how proud he was of me, about,
Good.
me being his daughter, and just what he wanted for me, and that was, always his prayers, for not just for me, but for my other siblings, that we would keep ourselves to
Mhm.
marriage. And so that's what that looked like. We went to the movies afterwards, came back
So
home.
nice. So nice. I love it. And see, that's what it's so important for dads to be in their daughter's life to, just instill those things in them that you are valuable, you are loved, and really to show, what how a man is supposed to treat us and things like that. But no pressure, guys, but it is pressure. So, but I know you actually mentioned that you met your husband online. And I have a question for you because one of my really good friends, she met her husband online. And she said that she was kind of embarrassed for meeting him online because she just never thought it was going to happen that way. Why do you think, or why is there still maybe a stigma about meeting your spouse online, you think?
That's a good question. And congratulations, to your friend. I
I
think,
know, right?
I think it's a new tool,
Hmm.
in this whole social media world, in order for you, it's just another avenue for you to meet, other people. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's a guarantee just because I met my husband online, or your friend met her husband online, that's going to happen to you. But I encourage people to at least try.
Yeah.
And I also encourage people not to use, there's a difference between dating apps and online dating sites. So the dating apps, you may have, Tinder, or,
Mhm. Bumble.
yeah, right. Just plenty of like little like hookup apps. And that's what I don't encourage. But I encourage those ladies to go into websites where people have to make investments in order to, find a person that they're, attractive to.
And I've never thought about it that way, but that makes total sense. My friend, another friend. So another friend did say that because we have POF, plenty of fish, and
Yeah.
that's the free one. But she wanted to do something that cost money because she felt that that person is making more of an investment, and that's where she would find more serious men at. Is that when you said investment? Is that what you were more so talking
Right, right. Because I met my husband on eHarmony.
about? Okay.
You have eHarmony Match, Christian Mingle, and I'm not saying that all the men on there that
Yeah,
are
yeah,
making
yeah.
investments are serious, but it helps you to weed out a lot of those guys, that's versus, the ones that are on, the dating apps.
Hmm.
But I just think, you have to be careful meeting people online just like you do offline.
Yeah.
So the same tips that you use for online dating should be used offline. You shouldn't just go randomly to out on a date without letting people know, or in a public, place. The online dating is for you not to be on there forever. It's just a first step in order to get to, know that person. Because my husband and I, we didn't immediately, because we were long distance, but we didn't immediately, take our conversation offline. It was a step by step process that we
Mm,
went through before we trusted each other to be able to take it offline.
okay, okay. So, why did you actually feel that it was necessary to write your book From Dating to I Do?
To give ladies hope that you don't have to stay in the dating phase, that the end should be marriage, right? The end should be I do. The end should be that commitment before God, before your family or friends, that you vow to stay with this person until death do you part. So dating is not meant to be a long term, relationship, but the end goal should be marriage. So I want to take, women from that journey, from dating with the result to I do.
Hmm. So, there's so many books out there though that is really helping us have a better understanding of, you know, moving from dating to marriage. Why did you decide to write it though, with so many other resources that people can utilize?
Well, because my story is my story,
Mhm.
and also too, I think what makes me an expert in this, not only, I've been married for 8 years, but successfully married for 8 years, but I'm also a licensed clinical therapist, and so you
Mm,
talked a lot about that healing work, and so because I have training, in my background in order to help women, I would just say women because that's what I'm talking about right now, in the healing of depression, anxiety,
yeah.
PTSD, a lot of serious mental health disorders that may come with brokenness.
Yeah.
That places me as the expert, and I talk a lot about that in my book, where I'm able to, I have that professional expertise in order to deal with those serious issues that women may come with.
That's good. So now, can you walk us through your book from dating to I do?
Yeah, so the foundation of my book is based on my core dating plan. And my core plan stands for confidence, obstacles, requirements, and energy. And so I talk a lot. The first part is confidence. So I help women to really build their confidence as far as who they are in Christ. Like I talked about, knowing who they are as a person, their purpose, discussing their single season, being excited about being in their single season, before God calls them into marriage, and really helping them to understand, what does that look like? How does that build up my confidence? The second piece is obstacles. So I talk about three main obstacles I see a lot of women struggle with in attracting their husbands. The first one is fear, fear of getting hurt, fear of the unknown. The other one is past relationships, like being broken by exes and other relationships that may have hurt them in the past, and they're afraid to move forward. And I'll talk a lot and I really go deep about unforgiveness. And so a lot of, women tend to hold on to that unforgiveness and not really knowing that that's really holding them back to their next season.
Mhm.
The third step is requirements. So I talk a lot about the three steps that you need in order to ask God what you want in a husband. And so I call that my my three simple prayer that you need to pray in order to ask God what you want. And this fourth thing is feminine energy. So really learning how to define your energy in order to attract the man that God has for you. And so energy looks like, attitude, how you're dressed, and it really goes into confidence as well too.
So now, did you develop this as you were, you know, waiting for your husband? What did that actually look like? Like, how did you birth this?
Yeah, so again, I the confidence for me had to come with, learning who I was in Christ after I lost my virginity, after, dealing with, broken relationships. And that goes into obstacles,
Mhm.
so learning to forgive my ex, that wasn't easy, that wasn't hard, where I had to learn to forgive the person that took away my virginity, and then understanding my what requirements that I really needed in a husband, not just going off of looks, because I know a lot of women, say, oh, he's funny, he's 6 feet,
Yeah.
he makes this and that, but is that really what holds a marriage together?
Mhm.
Is that really what's going to keep you? What if he loses his six-figure job? What if he gets into a car accident, and and all that quote unquote beauty is not there anymore? How would you stand the test of time? So really, learning what God really wants and what he values in a marriage, and then working on my feminine energy as well, like coming out of that healing, learning how to smile more, learning how to be more approachable goes into that energy piece.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a question. Can you give an example of the simple prayers? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I think she's serious about that. She's like, tell us what the prayer is, Coach Abby.
So the foundation for the prayer is asking God to send you a man based on your beliefs,
Hmm.
your values, and your goals.
That's good. And you dig into that deeper in the book, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we
So
just
that's
gave
that's
you
the
it.
framework. That's the
Yeah.
framework, beliefs, values, and goals.
Now, Miss Romero, we gave you a tidbit. Make sure you go to the description box and right there next to the dollar sign, because that's the beauty of a book. Yes, these authors are here on the show, but when you read that book, you really get to dig into the deeper understanding of what they're giving us the teas right here on the show. But Miss Romero, make sure you go to the description box and click on that link that's next to the dollar sign, and you can purchase your book today. So now, shout out to Stephanie Wynn, who's tuning in, as well as Regina Patterson, who's watching as well. So now, I know that you actually mentioned um, when you were waiting for your husband that you knew that God prepared you to be a wife. How did you know that?
It's because I knew that that's what I wanted. I wasn't
Mm,
meant to be single. I don't
okay.
think very few people are meant to be single. My mom was a great example of a wife, and having her in my life and seeing that played out, every day. She was a huge role model for me as far as what a godly wife looked like. And I knew that
Okay.
I wanted that for myself. I knew that I wanted children. I
Mm,
wanted kids, with my husband. So I knew that, being a wife is, what my purpose was, because those desires that I had for for myself.
okay. Okay. I definitely understand. Um, Thank you, Doc Sierra. She said buy the book. Yes. Tell people to buy that book, girl. Um,
Thank you.
so what are some of the obstacles that you have seen women struggle with that hinder them from finding or recognizing their future husband? I know you touched on it a little bit, but why are these such struggles for us to overcome, you think?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of it. The three main ones. Not saying that there are others that women struggle with. I know the biggest one is unforgiveness.
Hmm.
And women, we're very vulnerable, and we're emotional, and we're nurturing. God has made us, nurturing beings. So we put a lot, into relationships. And I'm not even talking about intimate relationships. It could be family relationships, it could be parental, siblings, relationships, friends, co-worker, employer, employee, whatever. I think that we give out a lot, and when we've been hurt, for the first time or over and over again, sometimes that shell and that wall is built up, where it's so hard for us to let go and forgive and really, take that and try to move on to the next season. And I think it's a lot about just not trusting, having a hard time trusting and letting those walls down.
But I can understand why, us as females keep those balls up because we don't want to be hurt again. So how can we practically, do these things that you are encourage us to practice, but still maintain the ability to not get hurt every time, a guy does ask for our number and things like that.
Yeah, and it's important to know not to judge every guy based on how the last guy treated you, because that's unfair for that person, to be brand new coming into your life and may want a chance with you, and you're thinking about all the things that the A, B, and C and D did and not giving, E a chance. So I really think it's really about learning, okay, Lord, so really taking a step back and saying, okay, so what happened with A?
Mhm.
What went wrong, and what did you want me to learn from that? You take that from A to B to C to D and really begin to learn to use discernment and wisdom. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that every guy that approach you, you have to, go out on a date with. Every guy is not meant to be your first date, but there are certain questions that you have to, ask yourself in order to discern certain actions and views, and to see exactly where that guy is at in order to see how far it goes.
So now, how do you actually encourage women to ask those tough questions in the beginning so that they're not wasting their time with a man that is not for them?
Being yourself. So that goes back into my three-part prayer. So, in order for you to ask those questions, you really have to know who you are as a person.
Hmm.
Right. So that comes also with that confidence. If you're still unclear about who you are, then
Yeah.
you're going to have a tough time really, understanding that person. Then here you go again, getting into another bad relationship. So
Hmm.
if you say that you want kids, that's one of your long-term goals, but the guy tells you he don't want kids, don't continue to keep talking to him and say, well, he's good and all, but he don't want kids, but hopefully he'll change. Listen to what he says. My
Yeah.
husband
Yeah.
always says that men were simple. So if he tells you what he does not want, listen to that and move on. So that's really learning who you are and really understanding what your values, beliefs, and goals are. But if you're still kind of iffy on that, then you're going to continue to kind of be in this merry-go-round.
Hmm. So now you mentioned that you are a licensed clinical professional counselor. Um, But why do you actually feel qualified to teach about, teach women about a subject that so many women just can't seem to obtain, which is marriage?
Yeah, so it goes back to what I said earlier, just about my profession and being going to school and being recognized by Maryland and DC that this person is fit, to be able to work with women. I'll stick to women,
Mhm.
in certain areas that they may be struggling with, because I have a lot of ladies that I interact with daily that's suffering from anxiety, depression, trauma from past hurts, and childhood traumas, and they still carrying that on. So I think having this background and this
Yeah.
being in this profession and been in the clinical world for a while kind of helps me to bring that expertise over into helping women.
So now, do you sprinkle some of your personal life in your book as well?
All throughout the book, yes.
Good. That's
From the
good.
very first chapter to the end, yes. So
That's
I'm
excellent.
very open and very vulnerable in sharing my story and just trying to make it relatable, in order to really encourage women that, you can have this life. You can meet the man that God has for you. You can overcome some of these obstacles that I've also, faced. So I'm all throughout the book.
And with that transparency, was it difficult for you to write about some of those things? Because through the writing process, you have to relive some of those things.
No, I've told my stories. I told my testimony for a while. So I know when I first got into this, I was nervous about, talking about those things. But, up until this point, I was very comfortable in writing, what I've been through. And where I'm at today, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's, you know, definitely, you know, a testimony as far as where I was at that young girl that's 16 that promised her dad that she would keep herself until now being a wife, you know, of 8 years and a mother.
Yeah, yeah. And so Doc Sierra asked a question. She said, and this is in regards to online dating. She
Okay.
says she has white girlfriends who met their spouses online and all married. And then all of her black girlfriends had such bad luck. Do you think that is a cultural thing?
I don't, you know, I think that more uh, our Caucasian brothers and sisters seem like they're just a lot more open
Uh,
to the idea. So it's kind of more presentable in their culture versus, you know, our culture as African Americans, like you said earlier, still that stigma, you know.
mhm.
So a lot of times it could be a mindset,
Yeah.
you know, where they go into and like, oh, you know, this not gonna work, and I'm not gonna do this, and he's this and that, you know. So you really have to be open, you know, to the process. I know for me, at the time when I started this online process, I was in St. Louis, and my
Mhm.
husband is in Maryland, so I
Oh,
knew
wow.
that I didn't mind moving. You know, if he was not local, I opened up my search and I've been here for 10 years, you know, so you really have to be open to the possibility as far as, you know, what could happen. And I think for a lot of our culture, I think is still some negativity there. So the mindset is just not there yet.
Mhm. And this is just from my this is a personal question. I mean, all the questions are personal, but but what did that realistically look like for you to meet a person online that lives in a different state? How can you build trust with somebody that lives in a different state? Because I'm thinking, okay, this brother is gonna be telling me that, oh yeah, I'm faithful, I'm blessed, I'm X, Y, and Z, but you are not with him, in that state. How did you overcome that part?
So Martinique, I was dating guys local and did the same thing, right?
But at least you can run up on them.
But who? Yeah, yeah. And who wants all that drama?
I'm not talking about the drama part of it. I'm just talking about
No.
like realistically, like in the beginning, how can you begin to even trust somebody that's in a different state altogether when it's all based off of what he says or what you say?
Yeah, so you know, you just have to really pay attention. Like I said,
That's
just
good.
like, you
Coach
know,
Abby, I'm telling you, you're good. I'm just,
you
you
just
throw
have
those
to
key
pay
words in. You
attention.
do. You really do. And you have to be so in tune with what that person is saying, but you keep going.
No, yeah, you absolutely right. Being in tune, you know, really paying attention to signs. If he says he's gonna call you back and you don't hear from him from days, you know, if and see back then, video chat and Skype and Zoom wasn't popular back in
Okay.
2009. So a lot of our conversations was, you know, over the telephone, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, you really have to pay attention to those behaviors and not be naive about it. Um, Seeing what's the plan for you all to one day meet face to face, you
Mhm.
know, making that schedule, you know, inviting him over to family and friends. So you really have to be intentional when it comes to long dating relationships.
Yeah. And so, what did that, okay, because I know you say it's all about changing the mindset of the individual. Now, I know some of the females in my family, if I told them, okay, well, I'm going to move to Maryland, you know, to marry my husband, they be like, well, why you got to move? What did that look like for you?
Well, you know, my family was supportive because they met
Good.
him. They knew. what type of man that he was. So I just didn't up and move without my introducing him to my family and my friends and my
Hmm.
circle. And you have to do what God has called you to do, right?
Yeah.
Or is your family gonna be a part of your marriage?
Right. Right.
You
They
know,
shouldn't
so
be.
right. And so that's an example where it could be hindering some women to go
Mm,
into that next season because they're so focused on, well, girl, why can't you move there? You know, that's that
hmm.
whole independence, that divisiveness, instead of just focusing on you and that man, your marriage, and God. Not saying that your family shouldn't have a say so, but it
Yeah.
shouldn't be discouragement like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And as long as you're willing to, and you guys talked about it, like I said, I was willing to move,
Hmm.
to Maryland. So I was, okay with that.
That's good. So now we do have a question on the floor. Doc
Okay.
Sierra asked the question: Hey, how has your exes responded to the book if they've read it?
That's a good question.
You're like, I don't know. I don't talk to them like that. I know that's right. Keep those exes out. We don't need to be chummy, chummy, buddy, buddy. She says she's been married for 8 years. And Quintel asked the question: Does your book address dating when the man or woman has children and the other does not? That's a good question, Quintel.
I address it somewhat slightly, but a lot of that, if you want like individual coaching or more personalized answers, then that's something that I would talk to to that person about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
Okay.
I do briefly talk about, the importance of, speaking with your children, understanding that process, not just introducing every man or woman you talk to and bringing it to the kids. So I do, mention it, but if they need deeper answers, then I will be happy to speak about it
And
personally.
and I'm glad that you brought up your coaching. Can you tell us a little bit more about your high ticket personalized coaching that you do offer?
12-week group coaching program called From Dating to I Do.
Hmm.
And those weeks are around what my book touches on, but a little bit more individualized, and really dig deep into a lot of questions around the confidence, obstacles, requirements, and energy. So it has weekly coaching, downloadable worksheets, and just that network of support from other ladies that's within the coaching program.
So now with your coaching program, you also offer this virtually.
Yes, yes. So everything is online.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, that's good.
everything is
That's good because we
online.
don't want to count nobody out. You might be in Africa. You can still utilize this coaching
Right,
program.
right.
Um,
Exactly.
but what does that look like though? Is it me and maybe five other women that may be on the group chat with you when you doing the like group meetings with us and stuff?
Yeah, so the group is about 10 to 15 ladies. And so the coaching calls is through weekly Zoom meetings.
Okay.
And then there's also a Facebook group community that's being utilized as well for that accountability and support piece. And I do want to mention too that in my book, I do also have a list of questions after each chapter.
Oh, that's
So it's
good.
kind of like a mini workbook for the ladies to kind of work through some of those questions that I, ask after each chapter.
And
So,
that's really good that you put that in there, because me with books sometimes I just want to say that I'm done. I read it, and you don't take time to really digest what you read and think about it and stuff like that. So that's really great that you've incorporated questions in there. So for your Facebook group that you're building this community, is it a private group or is it for everybody to join?
so I do have a public group for ladies if they want to join. my group today. You just have to answer the 3 questions in order to gain access inside the group. Now, as far as the coaching program, that's a separate Facebook community for those that have actually purchased the program.
That's good because I don't want my business all in the
Right.
public group.
No, I keep that separate.
It's good. So now, are you saying that if somebody was to get your coaching program, my one-on-one personal coaching would come like um alongside my group coaching as well?
Well, I right now is group coaching. I do offer one-on-one coaching as far as like a bonus, for those ladies that make that fast decision to, I'm ready. Yes, Coach Abby, this is what I want. Then I will offer 3 individualized, sessions. But as far as the core of the program, it's more of a group setting.
Oh, okay, okay. So you saying that this is two different things. You offer the group coaching, and then for women that's just like, well, look, Coach Abby, I just want you all for myself. I just need to figure out
Hmm.
how I'm gonna do this. So you offer that type of coaching as well, individual coaching.
Right.
Got you. So now you all, you ladies and men, maybe not the men, huh, Coach Abby?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, man. Pass this along to somebody that you feel needs to get on board. But but ladies, if you're interested in her coaching, make sure you click on that link that says coaching right next to it. And then that's how you can actually get connected with her. Also, make sure you also follow Coach Abby on social media because we know, I mean, we can just hear it in her voice. This is not going to be her only book. So you want to always just stay in the loop
Oh, I
of when
appreciate
she
that.
really, yeah, I just know, I know it's coming. But you want to be able to stay in the loop of when she releases new books or if she does any type of bookstore, book tours or anything like that. Also any projects that she's working on as well. So Sherry Watson asked the question, what age group are you targeting?
So my age group that I'm targeting is between 30 and 45. I do, well, I'll say this. As far as my book, that's open to any lady at any age, even teenagers can gain that. But as far as the coach and investment is usually 30 to 45, and then maybe some 20-year-olds that are ready to,
Mhm.
to attract their husbands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So now Doc Sierra asked the question, any tips on creating a good online profile?
Yep, I have some tips that's in the book.
Ah, she got you.
I laid it out. I lay it out in the book. So, but I will give one tip. It's really about really that profile picture, and just really being yourself. Not we don't want nothing wild or anything, but just a nice picture that has your smile and just really showing, that energy. You want your energy to come through that picture.
Yeah, that's so true. That thank you for giving us that, Coach Abby. He said I'll give you one. But like I've been telling you all, make sure you go ahead and go to the description box so you can at least click on that purchasing link because, like I said, we just gave you a tidbit of a little bit more about from dating to I do. But when you click on that link, then you will actually be able to read the book summary as well. And one of our viewers said she really just appreciated the honesty um, that you're displaying right now here on the
Oh, thank
show.
you.
And so Doc Sierra said men need resources like this. They need to understand the bodies and broken hearts they leave behind. I hope men seek similar resources. Have you ever thought about doing anything for men since you are, you know, especially professionally, you're able to handle that? Trying to get you something else, Coach Abby.
Well, if I do end up doing something for men, I'm gonna have to pull my husband in.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
pull him in for his knowledge and wisdom about men and reading men. So
Yeah.
even though I'm married, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would, if that was that route, I would we would have to partner up with that with him. I'll do that with him.
So do you guys ever partner up, in the discussion of your book and, how you guys met and his mindset and things like that? I think that would be good to hear.
If I was to do that, it'll probably be for my Facebook group.
Mm,
So you would have to really follow me to for me to bring him in. But as far as like the book and really helping women to overcome some of those obstacles, it's just just me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
cause I'm sorry, Martini.
go
I want
ahead.
to say how my book is divided. I really focus on that foundational piece first. So
Mhm.
the first six chapters are around that foundation piece, and then the last six chapters are around online dating, the first dates, like that fun stuff with dating. But if you're not healed, if you're not don't have that confidence, if you don't know who you are, then you're not going to be successful in that second stage.
And I think that that's great that you focus on that because, you know, a lot of times as single women, we need to, swallow that tough pill. Like, you're not ready for a relationship. You have to first develop yourself. And I always, think about the example of a building being built. That's the first thing that the construction workers do is build the foundation. So, when the wind comes, tornadoes, and all that other stuff, how can you stand when the trouble comes if you haven't built your own foundation? And
Right. And I also want to add to that building your foundation doesn't mean perfection. And I think a lot of women use that, oh, I gotta get healed, I gotta get healed. Well, you will never be healed
mhm,
fully. You know what I'm saying? We're always going to make mistakes. I'm still, learning and make mistakes. When I met my husband, I wasn't perfect. I still had some things that, I was struggling with. But when God told me it was time for me to move on to the next season, I listened to that.
that's good.
And so it's important to understand not to allow this long healing or perfectionism to get in the way of meeting your husband.
And do you talk about that more in your book? Just about, it's not about perfection, but, it's about the long haul. Like you said, none of us are perfect. Do you discuss that in the book?
Yes. I put that in the book, and I know that's a sensitive topic that comes up often, where a lot of women get healing confused, with perfection. There's things that I think that needs to happen before marriage, like having a forgiving heart. That's You have to have that, because how can you get married and your husband is going to get you upset? Marriage is not perfect. So if you don't have the tools to learn how to forgive him, then it's not going to work. So there are some things where I teach that yes, you have to learn to forgive. That's a must. But other things, you don't have to be perfect in order to move into marriage.
I think that is so good that you said that, because we definitely need to hear that. And I remember seeing a post from you, and it was just talking about the protest that's going on because you're constantly posing questions. Like, did you go out today? And you posed a question of, maybe you will meet your future spouse at a protest because of, and I thought that that was good because you just never know when you'll meet that person. But somebody else made the comment of being like-minded. If you feel that this is something of importance, that you are standing for Black Lives Matter, that other individual that's
Hmm.
there, he has the same,
That's right.
understanding of Black Lives Matter as well. And so I just think it's very valuable when you do pose those kind of questions because at least it stops us in the track and make us think like, did I? He was like, I got you, Coach Abby, tomorrow.
Right. All right, Lord, protect me. I got my face mask on. I'm a
Uh-huh.
go out here. You just never know what could happen.
Coach Abby, I definitely thank you for just being on the show, authors to know and
Thank
their books
you.
to read, and really just talking to us more about from dating to I do. I know that you have given so many women just hope, and I'm just thankful that you have written a book with Christian principles because we don't see that a lot. And then you are an African American woman that has written this book, and we definitely don't see um, that a lot as well. You, as the viewers, I definitely appreciate you for watching the show. Again, make sure you share this video so that your girlfriends can watch the video and so that more people will just know about Coach Abby as well as her specialized services and her book. Make sure that you also follow her on social media so you can constantly just stay in the loop of when she does start revealing new projects or new books or anything like that. Her Facebook group is the link is listed in the description box as well. Instagram, her email, and her coaching website. If you're interested in purchasing her book, make sure you go right there next to the dollar sign, click on that link, and it will direct you to Amazon where you can purchase her book. We hope that you guys have a great night, and we will talk to you all later.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.